Merry meet weirdos, and welcome to Strange and Unusual Book Club. I'm Gory B Movie,
and I'm Killer Kayla,
and we're gonna talk about books. We read. We've been reading some books.
We did actually.
Yeah,
we read a few.
This is a super fun month because it's spooky Halloween month. These are the books we read in October, so you know, spooky Halloween month.
We're just extending the holiday.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Yeah.
So, yeah. We had to do it a little bit later, but it's all good.
Yeah.
So should we just jump right into it?
Let's just jump right in.
If you guys are watching, let us know that you are here.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I set up our little. Hey, Cal L, good to see ya. That's right. I gotta pop out this chat thingy. Oh yeah, I remember how. Anyway. Okay, so books. Which one do you want to talk about first? How about we just talk about this one?
Okay.
Okay. So, oh my goodness. I know your little face. There. It's fixed now. Great. It's not on your face. Okay.
Great.
I fixed it. It is now fixed. Okay. Little chat thing. So, Hocus Pocus and the all-new sequel. You have this book, too.
I do have this book.
We weren't able to get to this one.
No, unfortunately. I wish, but you will get to tell us all of the gory deeds.
Just said the thing. Okay, so this is one of the longer books I read until I got into a series that we're going to get into a little bit later, because it's actually 2 books. So the first part is basically a beat-for-beat retelling of the movie. And then we get into the all-new sequel, which this came out before Hocus Pocus 2, the movie, came out. So it is a different sequel.
So it's not like the movie at all.
At all.
Cool.
It's so actually, I kind of like this one better.
Yeah. Because I had wanted to finish it before the movie came out, and I just never got around to it. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, well, what's the point? But if it's different,
it's completely different. I like this one a little bit more, and I especially like it because it relates to the characters from the original. Mm-hmm. And considering that... the group of them, Omri Katz, who is the kid, the virgin.
Max.
Him and Thora Birch, who plays his little sister, Danny. The gal who plays the love interest and the voice of the cat Binks. Mm-hmm. They do conventions all the time. So it's like, I know they'd probably be very excited to do this. Mm-hmm. But alas, no, that was not in the cards.
A bummer.
Alas. Hey, Zigma, he's sick. My Care Bear stare you all the energy. Of course, we got our... You can't sit with us today.
And I have its freaking bats.
Freaking bats. So I will say the first part of this book, and I know Brandon read this too, because he was mentioning it on Goodreads. The first part's actually, I think, surprisingly, the best part of the book. I don't know if it's just because they had stuff to work with, but I feel like they add a lot to the characters. Like, you know, in the movie that the girls obviously love their mother, the witches.
Yeah.
So it expands on that a little bit. Like,
That's
you
nice.
know, who their mom was. Not like a whole lot, just little spits here and there. I think it's also sweet because Max, he really likes Allison. He likes Allison a lot.
Right.
So you get to see his like internal monologue a lot. And,
Cute.
I think it makes him just a sweeter character, and you see how much he cares about his sister and stuff. So I really enjoyed that. I kind of powered through that part pretty quickly. And then the next part starts off really good. So it's essentially about Max and Allison have gotten married.
Oh.
They've moved into her old house, you know, the one where they had the party. And they have a daughter, and she doesn't believe in any of this stuff. She's grown up hearing the stories about it.
And she's like, whatever.
And her family doesn't really celebrate Halloween or anything. And this year they are, and they're doing a party, and she's a little confused by the whole thing, and she doesn't quite get it. And then, like, some people,
how old is she?
She's like 16.
Okay.
She's in high school. I think she's like middle school or high school. One of the bullies from the first one is the principal, and his daughter absolutely hates her. They don't get along either, just like their parents didn't get along. And he, like, they explain that too in the first book too, how, you know, it's kind of made a joke in that movie, but that kid was just left there.
Yeah.
In that cage.
Yeah.
And like how scary that was. Yeah. It really traumatized him.
I bet.
And that's why to this day he still hates Max, because he left him there to die. Which is way fucked.
Yeah, it's so fucked.
Yes, I think the characters got a little more developed and stuff. So the second one, obviously somebody does something stupid to bring the witches back. And I won't get too much into that, but I will say, obviously, I just talked about Max and Allison having a daughter. It's her fault. It's her fault. And she really likes this girl at school. So you got a little bit of like LGBTQ stuff. It doesn't quite work for me. A minor spoiler, the reason why is because very early on, after the witches are summoned, the love interest gets turned into a dog.
Oh.
And it was just weird.
Okay.
So she still likes her, and I understand she would still like her. She's not like being gross about the dog's body or anything. But it's for me, it was harder for me to like.
It's a little weird.
It was just harder for me to be like, yeah, I hope I ship it because it's a dog.
That's really weird.
So I wasn't super into that. And the main characters from the first one, they are in it, but basically they get put in like a sort of like a purgatory thing, the two of them and then Danny. And so the daughter has to get rid of the witches to save them, or they're going to be gone forever. Okay. And Thackeray Binks is with them too. And
but not as a cat.
Not as a cat. He's a human, and his sister. And so they're
they
kind
broke
of
the curse.
They're in like this like purgatory area, this like holding area. But yeah, so it goes on a really long time. They also have this like nerdy friend. She has this nerdy friend. He's okay, but his dad jokes get very old very, very fast. And it just goes on way too long. Like there's a point where like, this is when it should wrap up, because it's a pretty simple, almost kind of like, it's just like the movie. It's simple. It goes on way too long. And I noticed that Brandon had the same sentiments. So I did like it. I think this is a great October read or Halloween season read, because it definitely has them vibes. And if you love Hocus Pocus, I think you definitely want to read the novelization. That's the first part. Yeah. And I wouldn't want to miss out on the second one either. I gave it a solid 3 stars. I got what I wanted from it. I will never read it again, but I would highly recommend this to anyone who's a big fan of the movie, because I do think the sequel is better than the movie sequel, which I actually like.
Nice.
I know some people don't like it.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
Time.
So
cool. I'll definitely read that one. Maybe I'll get around to it next year.
It's a great October read.
Yeah. Well, fun.
Because I feel like in October, in the fall season, we're kind of in the mood for maybe a slower book sometimes. Just a cozy.
Yeah.
It's like a cozy sitting by the fire, taking your time reading it.
With like a cup of cocoa.
Yeah. Getting snuggly.
Your kitty cat in your lap.
Yeah. It's that kind of read. You know, it's
like
a cozy read. It's a cozy October fall season read.
Not terribly terrifying. Or
no,
like that.
It's absolutely not. Well, I guess there's some parts of it, but I mean, no more than the movie. No more than the movie.
Let's talk about the Halloween tree next.
The Halloween tree. So, as promised, I did. For channel members and Patreon members, I did read the first quarter of this book, but literally nobody has listened to it. Like, Nobody, not even one view, not one. So I'm probably not gonna finish it, guys, unless you like leave me a comment saying, "Oh, I listened to it and I really want to hear the rest." But it's fine. I don't have that many channel members or Patreon members, so like I'm not offended or anything. But it does take a while to read these things, so unless it's something that people want, and it's also fine. Like, dude, my voice, like, I wouldn't want to hear me read it.
I do.
So, unless it's something people
Yeah.
like are into and they want it, I'm probably not gonna finish it. But let's talk about the book itself.
Yeah.
I also watched the movie for the first time.
I still haven't seen the movie. I need to watch the movie. But
Zigma, it's on the channel. I don't know, you're a channel member, so if you have the bell hit, maybe
hit the bell.
let me know if you can see it on there. Maybe that's an issue with why nobody saw it.
Maybe.
But I mean, I can see it on there. It says for members only.
I don't know. Hard to
Anyway,
tell.
what's the Halloween tree about?
Halloween tree. It's about the best little boys in the world. God,
There's a whole chapter about how good this boy is.
These boys, if you like, man, so it's like what, 9 boys?
It's a lot.
It's a lot of boys.
What do you call it? Just a massive clutch of boys.
I would call them a gaggle.
A gaggle.
A gaggle of boys.
Yes.
And it's Halloween, and so they're getting ready to go trick or treating. And their friend, what's his name?
Pipkin. I don't remember because my tarantula's name's Pipkin.
Is who God
he
loves
is the best little boy
more than anybody.
Look at that. Like, you can just tell. Like, he's sitting there.
He's pretty cute.
And yeah. He is the best little boy right there.
This one right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. God loves Pipkin more than
it says this in there. We're not being weird.
No, he loves his little boy.
There's like a church of Pip, which doesn't make sense to me.
We worship
happened.
at this church. I don't get it. Anyways, he's sick. He can't go trick or treating. He's like, I can't go. You'll have to go on without me.
I like the voices. You should read the audiobook.
So they're like, okay, catch up with us later. They're really sad that their BFF isn't going to be trick or treating with them. But they go out to the outskirts of town. And they run.
He does tell them where to go.
He does. He's like, meet me out by the whatever. It's like a ravine.
Spooky dooky house in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And that is where they meet my favorite character, Clavicle Carapace Moundshroud.
What a name. What a name.
Yeah. And he takes them on an adventure. Yeah. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Jason, good to see you. And yes, Sigma, it was, and we're going to talk more about that. The movie, I think the book is maybe better with the characters. The movie is a little more clear, I think, on why what the whole point of the book is, because early on their friend Pip is in trouble. So with the book, I didn't quite get it right away. Maybe I actually am rereading it. I still don't get it.
I did get it at their first, like when they were at the pyramids. I kind of figured that it was going to be about like death and how different cultures like embrace it.
Yeah, so like when I first read it, I was just like, so basically, Mr. Moundshroud, he looks at all their costumes. They're all dressed as various things, and he's like, "Do you know what this means? Do you know what this means? Why do you wear it?" And I'm surprised the kids didn't have a better answer, because I would have been like, "Because it's fun, it's spooky.
Right.
I liked this movie," but they're like, "Why do we wear it?"
Yeah.
Alas. And so
they're really setting themselves up for a lesson to be taught here.
He says if they have time, he wants to basically show them the origins of Halloween, which I think is a little more clear in the movie, but I mean it is in the book too. In the book, I was more just like, but their friend's messed up. Like,
yeah, what's going on with him?
Like they were basically like, well, the night is young, and I was kind of wanting them to be like, our friend's in trouble. He said to come here. Like I felt like they kind of forgot about that.
Yeah.
So essentially, this guy's gonna help them with their friend who's at the hospital, and they don't know what's wrong with him. If they go and basically spend Halloween night instead of trick or treating and getting candy, he calls it trick, which is basically he wants you to spend the whole night finding out the origins of like witches and Dia de los Muertos and
mummies.
Yeah, like where does it all come from?
Gargoyles.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's cute. I listened to the audiobook. I towards the end had to listen to it on double speed. Ray Bradbury writes beautifully, but like I was in a rush. I was like, can we get to the point already? But it was very beautiful, like the imagery of it, like when they go to Mexico and how much they love Dia de los Muertos. They're like, this is the greatest thing that we've ever experienced in our whole life. That part was really cute and sweet. And then the part at the beginning when he's like building the kite for them, I thought that that part was really cool. But he kind of drags on about how
the way he writes, and I know this was a complaint that Brandon had mentioned because he tried reading something Wicked This Way Comes. Like he will kind of like have like a beat, and he'll go on that. Like he'll like Pipkin was the best kid. He was the most wonderful thing. He'll go like for a whole page, kind of on this whole thing.
Yeah.
Because he really is enjoying playing with like the cadence of language. So sometimes he'll have really long sentences and stuff, and he's trying to get you to slow down and take in the scenery, and he does it really well, and he really paints this, fall vibe. And sometimes it's very quick, and he's trying to do more like staccato, and he wants you to hurry up because he wants it to be like, I mean, one thing I also like about the movie better is they do have one girl in there.
Yeah.
This guy's obsessed with little boys, dude.
Oh my God.
Like, I don't mean that in a weird way.
No, it's not weird. It's very sweet.
He seems like somebody who really loved being a little boy in like the 50s or whatever.
Absolutely.
And he's trying to capture that boys getting their knees scraped and stuff. And being on bikes and thinking girls are gross.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of that in Something Wicked This Way Comes.
This is like the best of Boys Will Be Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if I had read it, I would have liked it more. The guy who read the book, I got it on Apple Books because it was really cheap. The way he kind of read it was very like slow, and I was just like, can we pick it up? So I listened to it on double speed, got through it, loved it.
I read it pretty fast.
Yeah.
When I read it out.
When you read it all, you probably
and
did
I
a
did
better job than
voices
this
for
guy.
everybody too.
How exciting!
It was so fun.
Anyway, it's a really sweet book, really easy to read. I think it's made for children. So
it's a little over, I think, 100 pages.
Yeah.
It's not that long.
No, it's good. It's a really good book. I recommend it.
And I definitely think like the movie made me think of her a lot because you really like The Last Unicorn.
I do.
And it is very much like that. And it's a movie I think I will watch again during Halloween. Yeah. It's just really cute. Leonard Nimoy does Mountshroud.
Oh, cool.
Which is fantastic.
That's awesome.
And there's other things too, like he at the time he was a little boy who did the Chucky doll, the good guy doll on Child's Play. So he didn't do like the Brad Dwarf part. He did the like, hi, I'm Chucky, wanna play?
Right.
That part. Like he's in there, you can tell it's him. So that was pretty cute.
I'll have to watch it because I did enjoy the book. I think I gave it, I'm much more generous with my scores. I think I gave it a 4.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah, that was the Halloween tree.
It was a classic. My mic keeps cutting out. I'm gonna try turning it down a little bit. Maybe it's cutting. Oh, hopefully that helps.
Test.
Hopefully that's better. If not, we can put it on the interview mode.
Sure. Well, you said you normally have it on the butt mode. So
yeah, I usually have it on the card.
Normally works.
Let's just leave it. You know.
Okay. We'll figure
Stop giving us complex, Dusty.
Yeah, calm down.
God. Answering Jason's questions. Yes, I'm going to make dinner. I'm going to make these delicious cream cheese pumpkin brownie things and turkey and stuff. And it's going to be awesome.
Will you save me one? Yeah, dude. Okay.
And we both. I liked the new Beetlejuice.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you need to watch it.
I will.
We should watch it.
I think it's going to be free on HBO next month. So I'm waiting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We ready for yes. So far, I would say I recommend Hocus Pocus. I gave both of them 3 stars. Though I was enjoying it more the second time around. I think because the first time I didn't really know what to expect. So I think it's good. It's something I actually would read again, and I kind of wish I had found it when my son was younger.
Yeah.
I think it's be if I want to read a Nehemiah.
Absolutely. Yeah, he would really like it. It's really sweet. It's a very
son.
Very sweet story for little boys.
It's wholesome. It's fall, and it's it's if you're looking for something for Halloween that's not super dark or potentially scary, like maybe Goosebumps, this is it. This is about as wholesome Halloween as you're gonna get.
Yeah. And
I feel like at the core of it, even though it's talking about the origins of Halloween, at the core of it, it's really talking about like friendship.
Yeah.
So it's like that time of your life when your friends are kind of your entire world, and what would you do for your friends?
Yeah. What do they mean to you? And yeah, I think that's perfect. death.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! This book, man!
This book
right here.
that was also one unput downable. I was like, what's gonna happen
This
here?
book, I like just read this book super fast.
Yeah.
Should I let them in?
Yeah, you fixed your mic. He says you're still cutting out.
Well, maybe it's his speakers. Does anybody else think the mic is cutting out? I don't know. You can hear me, so unless anybody else is complaining about the mic cutting out,
We're gonna keep on.
we're just gonna keep chugging on because everything looks like it's good here. Anyway, I think if I mess with it, I'm just gonna end up breaking it. But no, everything's working.
Okay.
So
We're all in the green here. So this book, Bananas.
Bananas.
Yeah, Crazy Town. So you start out with I can't remember their names.
Margie. They both have M names.
Yeah. So there's this. She's the younger
Here,
sister.
we're gonna look it up.
Okay, we have the internet.
We do.
The little sister, she is being interviewed by a woman who
As an adult.
She's an adult. She's like 24. She's being interviewed by a woman who wants to write her family's story. So she kind of like dives into talking about the story. Marjorie
and Mary. And Mary's the little
Mary,
one.
yeah, Merry.
Like Mary and Pippin.
So she, she says she was really young when the whole thing happened. Whatever happens.
And she tells you from the get-go, I was young. Some of my memories have been filled in by things people have told me, which I understand. Like everyone has like those stories your family tells so many times that you don't know if you really remember or if you just remember the story.
Exactly. So she's an unreliable narrator and acclaimed. Like she's saying she doesn't really remember what happened the best. But she's telling us this whole story about her dad worked at a factory of some kind. He got laid off. Money was tight. And so they you explain this next part because I'm not exactly sure.
Essentially, when she was little, her sister, like right when she was becoming a teenager, started to act really weird. And essentially, her parents at first are like, she's a teenager, but it starts to get more bizarre. Like she's doing typical exorcism movie things, like she's kind of climbing up the wall, and Mary notices it because they write stories together, and her sister's stories start getting really dark and mean and being about her family being in danger and stuff. And she's just like, no, I don't like these stories. These stories are too scary. You're not being like yourself. Why do you want to scare me? And her sister will say awful things to her. Like, I'm going to come into your room at night and I'm going to like
cut out your tongue.
Yeah. So it's told from Mary's point of view. So that's her like, this isn't normal. Her parents, it's other things too. Like, she's having issues at school and stuff. So they're a single income family. The dad also has rediscovered religion, and that's new for them. They're not used to praying before meals or going to church and stuff. So that's new. And then the mom's really, really stressed because they're relying on her income for everything. And with all of, they're trying to get Marjorie into therapy and all these things.
Figure out what's wrong with her.
And they're on different fences about it. The mom basically thinks it's psychological, and the father thinks it's spiritual. That and so his new thing is he wants her to come to his church, and he wants an exorcist to come over, and the mom's just like, whoa, back it up.
Yeah.
But eventually, she concedes to his idea to have a reality show move into their home, when for their daughter to have an exorcism.
Yeah.
So this priest, he has to basically prove the girl's actually possessed, and there's a whole TV crew in their house, and he's going to perform an exorcism on Marjorie. Yeah. And it's really, really interesting because you're like, oh, I've seen a billion things like this. Like you haven't though. Like,
Yeah, and it's because because the sister, like, she's young. She's what, like 15, 14, something like
The
that.
older sister's
The
like
older sister,
15.
15. So she's like trying to be cool too, right? She tells her little sister, she's like, it's not real. None of this is real. But she's still doing weird things and being really scary. And so there's a lot of like playing with your mind, like what's really going on
Yeah.
here.
Throughout this book, Marjorie is always telling Mary that she is not possessed, that she's got a bone to pick with her dad, and she seems very angry that her father is now into the whole religion thing. She's also upset about the therapist thing. Both of her parents' tactics for dealing with her behavior are offensive to her.
Yeah.
And she basically tells Mary that she's kind of just messing with her parents. And you can't trust her, because then later on she tries to say that she's doing all this intentionally to get other things like brought to light and stuff, and we honestly never know what to believe because we're just stuck behind the point of view of a little girl. What I think makes this book really, really special is we're from the point of view of a little girl. So like there are times where she will miss out on something, but she is also catching things that maybe other people are not. And she's really, really scared and stuff too. And I think we get really invested in her because she's so imaginative and she's so sweet and stuff. It's like you just kind of want to pluck her out and be like, "Sweetie, you belong in a different story."
I want to read more by Paul Tremblay because this is only the second thing I've read by him. The first one was Knock at the Cabin, which was our very first
House at the end of the world.
Cabin at the End of the World. That one he also wrote a big chunk from the perspective of a little girl, and it was so perfect. And I feel like he did a really good job with this too. Like I felt like I was back at being 8 years old again.
Hello, sisters in the chat. Speaking of sisters, we talk about this a lot. Like a lot of times, it's okay if you're going to venture and write a character that's very different than yourself. We talked about this with Clown on the Cornfield. You want to write a character who's gay and you're not, fine. But sometimes it becomes very apparent you don't know what you're talking about. Sometimes people write from a different gender's point of view, and you're just like, honey, you don't know little girls. Paul Tremblay is an exception. He knows little girls. I don't know how.
I don't know either. But
I don't know how, but
it's perfect.
He perfectly writes little girls. Yeah. Like all the power to him. Like
even to the point where like Marjorie is trying to hold influence over Mary, and like Mary does things that you're like, she really shouldn't be doing these things. I remember being an 8-year-old girl and I would have done anything my older sisters asked me to do. Like, even if I shouldn't have done it, I would have done it.
And she thinks her older sister is the coolest person ever. And so she's scared for her, but she's also, like, she really wants to make her happy and make her proud and stuff. And, they've kind of lost their own personal little world they had before this happened. And now all these people are invited into this world. And it's interesting because she's trying to be included. And so she has relationships with, like, the director of the show who's very friendly to her and, like, plays with her and stuff. And it feels very authentic and very real. Like, she's kind of, like, she's uber precocious. So they tell her, like, there's a confessional room.
Yeah.
And Mary will go in there for hours. And he's like, okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to give you your own camera.
Right. You can't, no more confessions for
no
you.
more confessional room.
Overdoes it.
So it's really crazy because it's really sweet in places. And she is just an adorable character. And I love her so much. But it actually is genuinely really scary because she's so trusting of her big sister, and we don't trust her because we don't know.
And the parents too, like you get to see these parents like not agreeing on the best way to help their child from the perspective of another child, and it's really hard like to see that happen. Like the mom, I loved the mom. She's kind of a drunk, but I don't blame her. Like what she's going through is really, really hard.
And she gets upset too because she agrees to do this for the money, but then things get out of control very fast. They get a lot of protesters who are upset that they're doing a show that's, basically like kind of anti like religious and stuff. And I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I don't think the Catholic Church would actually support.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are protesting it. So they have people outside their house every day. Their girls are getting bullied at school, and the mom is constantly saying she's sorry, and things are also getting worse too. So I think I've seen a lot of movies where they say like if you have something like this, the more attention you give it, the worse it's going to get, like Paranormal Activity. So things are getting worse, and the mom really regrets it. And then the more they do is the more like fanatical the dad gets, and he's also just getting very like aggressive. Like he goes out there and tries fighting the protesters. So like
And he does
everything's
things,
imploding.
he does things behind the mom's back. Like
Mhm.
he's really fanatical and like a really negative way. Like I understand finding solace in religion. Like if you don't know what's going on, I absolutely can see being like, okay, let's go back to something simple, something I know is gonna love me and protect me. But he uses it to get his way.
Yeah, and then I like that there's actually three perspectives here. So we have like the science perspective of like therapy,
Mm-hmm.
the religious perspective, but there's also the media perspective. Like there's this one scene I couldn't figure out why, but when they're preparing for the exorcism, they put poor Marjorie in this bed and she's like, I'm really cold.
Yeah, she's
I'm really
freezing.
cold. Can I have a blanket? And they have the window open.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing that so that her breath will show. So it's like the freaking exorcist. Like that's cruel.
Yeah.
That is not they manipulate things for views essentially, which is absolutely something I would expect to happen on a reality TV show. And they will say like, you know, you've got to ramp up things. I guess the only thing that I thought wouldn't happen is the episodes are coming out as they're filming it. I think they would have filmed it before. That was the only thing I was like, I don't think they would do it that way. But everything else seemed pretty genuine.
They're like a week or two behind the actual events. I agree with that. I really liked this book. I think Paul Tremblay is an amazing author. The way he writes is really cool and just keeps you wanting to know. It's not like gripping in the way that like I wasn't on the edge of my seat the whole time, but I was really invested and I really cared about what was happening and who these people were and how they were going to get out of this mess. Does that make sense?
I think it also something else I liked about this is it had kind of a commentary on exorcism movies because they talk about the exorcist, they talk about all these things, and they will even say because we're also from the perspective of it's being in the past, and there's also a blogger who is frequently her stuff is throughout, and she will criticize it and be like, oh, that scene where you know at one point you know the girl is like you know kind of like the scene where Reagan pees herself. You know, the girl like menstruates and is like makes a big mess with everything. And they're like, yeah, and that was pretty much just ripping off The Exorcist. And then you wonder, like, okay, is Marjorie intentionally doing this? Like, are people, you know, because it's playing into what a reality show would do.
Yeah.
So like, and then they do. I don't know. It's just I don't think I'm explaining it very well, but
it's kind of a hard to explain story because you're not supposed to know.
Yeah.
Right? And so we know more because we read the whole thing and so like we have our theories, but the whole way throughout the book you have no idea. You have no idea what's going on, what's written, what's real, if she's just sick or if she's truly possessed.
I figured out how I want to explain it. So basically there are a ton of Exorcist knockoffs, and honestly no movie has done it better than The Exorcist. It just hasn't. And I think the reason why is those knockoffs or the ones who've come after don't get why we care because we cared about Reagan.
Yeah.
We got to know Reagan and we got to know her mom, and it's because it was personal.
Yeah.
And then we're scared for her. They just see that the girl's spouting a lot of, you know, profanities and throwing up stuff, and that's what they took away from it. And that's not what scares us. You can have that in a movie by itself and it doesn't scare you. And in this book, he understands that. We care because we care about Mary and we care about Marjorie. We don't want anything bad to happen to her.
Yeah.
And, you know, we want this to work out for this family. We're very invested in this family.
We want them to make it out together and relatively unscathed.
Yes. Yeah. So, Spoiler section. Paul Tremblay is very ambiguous with his endings. Yeah. And so, the flipping ending, that ending knocked me, like, it knocked the wind out of me.
Yeah, me too. I was like, wait, what?
And the worst part is, so you find out chapters before and that the whole family is dead aside from Mary. And you can kind of surmise that early on because they're not around. Yeah. And they say that, you know, they were poisoned. I think they thought the dad did it. They thought the dad did it. And then you're like, oh, well, they could have done that in a more intriguing way. And they basically make it seem because the show, I don't know, the dad was basically crazy and that he killed everybody. You're like, okay, that's kind of.
Well, there was that he had been that protester that he fought. He reached out to, and they started talking about like, you know, the religion part aspect of it, and like he basically this guy sent him a message and was like, well, you know what you have to do.
Basically, he convinced him that because his daughter's got a demon in him or whatever, he needs to kill their family.
Yes.
So, and then you find out from Mary's point of view that that is not what happened. So Mary tells you what happened, and like it's so like just a gut punch.
I already have goosebumps. Like it's so upsetting.
Do you want to tell that?
Yeah. So you find out early in the story that Mary doesn't like sauce on her noodles. She eats her noodles plain. But somehow Marjorie is telling Mary like Dad's going to do something terrible to us. So you need to go put this in the sauce. You need to go put this thing in the spaghetti sauce, and it's poison.
And she says Dad's gone crazy. He has a whole shrine downstairs. He's fully gone. She says the reason she acted possessed and stuff is because she knew their dad had been planning to kill them, and she wanted people to be there. And so Mary's all like, "Oh my goodness!"
Yeah, she was trying to like bring attention to what their dad was doing, is what Marjorie says. So she's like, "We need to get to him first. So put this. He was gonna poison us with this, but you're gonna put this in the sauce. We're gonna get to him first." And Mary does it. She pours this poison in the spaghetti sauce, and she doesn't eat spaghetti sauce. So everybody at the table dies except for her.
Yeah, and she also she tells Mary like it's not the real poison, doesn't she? She tells her like
I don't know. I think she told her that it was, but Mary, she's little, like she doesn't get it. Like I feel like she didn't fully understand.
She said that we were going to replace it with like sugar or something. So it's not real, and then they were going to basically catch them. If I remember correctly. That part I'm not quite sure if I remember correctly. But she's waiting for her sister to be like, "Ha, we got you. You were going to try and poison us or whatever." Yeah. And it never happens. They just die. And then she goes downstairs. There is no shrine. There's nothing. And she says that that's the end of it. But the interviewer's like, that's not true. She says that she just sat there until like her aunt came and picked her up. And the interviewer's like, no, you were there for days and days and days, like just holding on to your mom.
Yeah.
And
it's really traumatic.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the part I wanted to talk about. This is why I don't usually do spoiler things, but I need to talk to you about this. Yes. So they established earlier that, that's why they had the window open and stuff, is because they wanted to look cold, because they believed that there was a demonic presence around, the temperature would drop, which, it's been on a lot of movies and stuff, right?
Yes.
So at the end of it, she's, Mary, as an adult, is talking to this woman. This woman's had a lot of issues with Mary. You find out Mary was the blogger. And she's kind of distanced herself from it. She's really gotten into like possession movies and stuff. And she's like, I just don't really get it. Like, you went through all that stuff. And she's just like, this is my way of coping.
Yeah.
And then when they get into this place, initially they say it's really warm. And then she's telling this whole story about how her family died. And then people are coming in. They're like, oh, it's so cold. And it's freezing cold. And you can see Mary's breath. And then she walks away at the end of it. And I think that's supposed to tell us. Plus, somebody else has asked Paul Tremblay about this, and his response was basically that he wasn't going to say anything, but he said basically that the breath thing wasn't an accident. Like, that's, pay attention to that. Okay. So I feel like he's intentionally saying Mary is flippin' possessed, y'all.
So the entity moved.
Well, they talked about this earlier, that during the exorcism, because Marjorie really wanted her sister there, and they said that's really dangerous because it can actually move to somebody else. Like, if we got it out of her, it could go to somebody else, and it would want to go towards like the most innocent person. So I think that's actually what happened. As soon as Marjorie's body died, it left her body, it went into Mary. That's why she went kind of catatonic, and into a state, and she did, and that's why she has no memory of it, because she was in the process of like being taken over by this thing, and she has since lived her life being possessed. So that's also why I think a lot of this stuff doesn't affect her the way it would normally affect somebody. Why she's obsessed with the show about her family and stuff, because
she writes that blog, and it's kind of heartless. Like I didn't pick up that it was her the first time.
Yeah.
Like the second time, like I think they tell you pretty quickly, but like I didn't pick up on that. I was like, this person needs to stay out of it.
It's just really heartless,
really
but
detached.
If you thought about it, like, not like, why is this girl so messed up? But this demon who did all of this stuff, they're proud of that. they managed to kill a whole
Yeah.
family and possess a little girl. That's like one of their greatest hits. So
and
of
they
course
can
they want to
make a snarky commentary about it.
exactly, which made it even scarier.
Yeah, it was really upsetting. I was really upset at that. I was like,
But I loved it. 5 stars. That book is scary.
yeah, it's good. It's really good. It was really scary. The whole part when like Marjorie was like telling her how she was gonna sneak into her room and her little like cardboard house that she had, that whole part, that was really scary.
And just the stories and stuff she told her. It's just really creepy. And Paul Tremblay, like he writes little girls well. He sets mood really well. And I think he has a talent for, even though the story is told from the point of view of one character and that character doesn't understand everything, we understand what's going on with when the mom makes this move or when the father does this. We understand. Like he just knows just the right amount of detail to include that we figure it out. Like basically he trusts his audience. He trusts that you're smart and you're going to figure this out.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. He's a great author.
Amazing. I need to read more of his books because this one blew me away.
Have you read anything else by him?
I read Cabin at the End of the World and I read a short story of his collection of his called I want to say like The Beasts Among Us or something. It was a short story collection.
I need to read more because I've liked everything we've read by him so far.
The final story in that is like a novella and it's kind of like anthropomorphic, like animals, kind of like Animal Farmish. It's like his own kind of like Animal Farm. The other thing I wanted to mention about this book before we move on is obviously, and he has said this too, so I'm not just being like annoying lit person on you. He is a big fan of Shirley Jackson and her novel We Have Always Lived in the Castle, which is about 2 sisters. Their parents are gone, and in that one it's like she knows her sister doesn't take sugar. And how there's like a twist in there, how you think the whole time it's one sister and it ends up being the other sister. So I thought that was pretty cool without being like super obvious. And then the little girl was named Mary Cat. We've always lived in the castle. So I think if you haven't read this and if you have read this, because a lot of people have read this, I'm kind of late to the party on this one. If you have read this and you want something else that's kind of like got this cool, creepy thing and has sisters in it, read We Have Always Lived in the Castle. It's a very short book and it's awesome.
Love it. Good stuff.
All right.
Now on to Haley's favorite book ever.
Or should I talk about Rest Stop?
Well, yeah, talk about that one because you don't have a whole lot to say about it. What you do have to say is
okay. So I read this book to Danny and it sucked. The end. I truly hated this book. I will give a lot of 3 stars out. Occasionally I'll toss out a 2-star. You know, I don't give that many 1 stars out. This book got a 1 star. Like, I hated this book.
Such a bummer because when you sent me a list of like potential books that we could read for next month. This one stood out to me. I thought it looked interesting. So
it's not. It sucks.
Bummed about that.
So, it's got a googly eye on it. It's trying to get that Everything Everywhere All at Once crowd.
I see. Okay.
So the synopsis is great. This guy is stuck in like one of those, gas station restrooms. It's locked. And he is being tormented by somebody from the outside. I would describe this book as Goosebumps meets Old Boy, but not as good as either one. Like even that makes it sound good, and it's not. This is truly garbage. I know this guy's written other books that people like called he wrote Nestlings and Mary. I'm sorry, I cannot read any of his books after this. Like I truly hated this guy's writing style. Biggest problem is none of the characters are likable at all. He's trying to make his main character seem very deep. Basically, he's in a nerd death metal band called like something Fetus. It sucks. And the guy's very, very Jewish, and he has a grandma who's horrible to him his whole life, and she just had a stroke. And so a lot of the words I had to look up, granted, a lot of these were Yiddish words, and I'm not familiar with a lot of Yiddish words. But some of them were just, the dude's dropping dollar words for no reason. For no reason. Which is really annoying. I don't like it. I think when you really want someone to pay attention, and it's exactly the right word, and you want them to stop and pay attention, drop that dollar word there. But when you're clearly just using a thesaurus to make yourself sound smart, I anyway, find it off-putting.
Yeah.
I read a lot of books. I have a pretty good vocabulary. If I'm looking up 4 words within your first 3 chapters, I feel like you're a douche. I just do.
Yeah.
Anyway, this book was douchey. The guy is horrible. Like I understand his big thing is he's been in love with this girl for a really long time. It was him and her and his best friend hanging out, and she finally got, I guess, tired of waiting around for him, and the best friend asked her out and they're dating, and he's all like, "Roar," and I'm just like, oh my god,
Get over it.
nobody cares. Nobody cares. He's just such a whiny little git. But the absolute worst part is you think, okay, like I kind of was actually not upset that he was a shit, because I thought, obviously he's a shit because somebody has put him in there.
Yeah.
Like a snake comes into the room and he finds a box in the vent. Somebody put that there.
Yeah.
Somebody is punishing him.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's wronged somebody.
Yeah.
He's getting
supposed to be a shit.
And I thought that was going to be the big reveal. No, that's not. I'm going to spoil it for you because I don't want you to read it. I'm helping you. I am
You're welcome.
a humanitarian. Y'all welcome.
A philanthropist.
I am. This book, so this is the Goosebumps aspect.
Yeah.
So he'll be like, and then the lights went out. Chapter end. The next chapter. So I was feeling around. I realized I accidentally turned off the lights. There's a whole chapter where he thinks he's rescued. I was just daydreaming. That's the next chapter. No fucking joke.
That's so dumb.
Oh, that one really made me mad. What's another one? He got bitten by the snake. Next chapter. No, he didn't. The snake bit the puncher. Like, don't gaslight me, Nate Cassidy.
Yeah.
Truly hated it.
So
It's the opposite of Paul Tremblay. Paul Tremblay trusts his audience to be smart. This guy, like, I feel like he thinks he's smarter than he is, and he talks down to his audience.
so who put him in there?
I'm trying not to get upset. I also spent like $3 on this, and honestly, Nate Cassidy, like, you're never gonna watch this, but if you do, you owe me $3. You owe me $3.
I hope he doesn't watch this.
I hated this. I never tear books apart. I hated this. So yeah, the big thing while you're pushing through chapter after chapter, and it feels long because you want to find out when he's when he's in there.
Mhm.
Eventually, there's a guy with a mask. He's put googly eyes all over, and he meets somebody who he thinks is the clerk. It's not the clerk. It's the killer guy.
Mhm.
And he had no reason. The guy was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then it shoots forward a little bit, and the author tries to be really, really deep. And the guy's like, you know what? I don't even care that my best friend and the girl are together. They're good together. Like, I don't care about any of that stuff anymore. Now I honestly think he took him a couple years to get the van. There's a creepy van outside the place. And I guess in the acknowledgments, he mentions he saw a van like this where it says "Create Hate" is the license plate. It has an 8. And he kind of thought he shouldn't go in there when he saw this van. Well, after the whole thing, he gets that van out of the impound. And now he's driving around. He thinks he might want to hurt people. And he might want to. And I guess in the acknowledgments, he even talks about how, like, evil and stuff is, like, kind of inherited and we pass it along. And I'm just like, no, that is not what you wrote. I am really sorry. I think that's a great sentiment. That's a wonderful thing to write about. That is not what you wrote. Your book sucked. Maybe go back to the drawing board because that wasn't it. No. No, dog. That's going to be a no for me.
Bummer. It's
One
a really
star.
big bummer because I thought it sounded really interesting.
It's not.
It also sounded short.
So I read this to Danny. He also hated it, but he thinks it's hilarious when I don't like books. Premise was good. Everything else, yeah, the premise was interesting. That's why I paid the $3 for this, or $3.99. I think it was $3.99. Net Cassidy, it was $3.99.
And with tax, it's like $4.32. Why would you do that?
I sent him a link to the video on X. That's just mean. But you know, I mean, it's still a lot shorter than having to read this whole damn book. So we're even.
It's only going to be 1 hour.
Yay! Let's go talk about something that makes me happy.
Please.
I love this so much. I now have the mug. This is Donut from Dungeon Crawler Carl. Don't get some Jesus.
There she is, right there on the cover of the book.
And we're drinking Dirty Shirley's.
Dirty Shirley's.
Dirty Shirley's, which is Shirley Temple with vodka in it.
Yep. Good stuff.
I got 2 because I want to drink out of my donut cup.
There you go.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Watch out.
Grenadine's sticky.
Yeah, it's like pure sugar.
Okay. Oh yeah, I made dirty Shirley's for my sister.
Yum.
Danny said, "This is an outrage." Danny says, "Think Saw, but Jigsaw is the pimply clerk from the." Yeah, basically.
Yeah, okay,
Basically.
bummer.
Yeah, we had dirty Shirley's. My sister was over.
Can I have that 7-Up?
Yes, you may.
Thank
you can
you.
re-Shirlify your dirty Shirley.
Dirty Shirley.
They're very good. I love this book so much. So this was a request. Every month, we let people in the chat request a book that you want to read along with us, or that you really like, and you think we would really like.
ASMR. Sorry.
Long as it's horror, sci-fi, fantasy, or just weird, we're probably going to be into it. So this book, we got a story with this one. So the author's from Gig Harbor, Washington. We are from Washington.
Not too far from us.
Nuh-uh. He comes to Crypticon every year. And this year at Crypticon, I only had a chance to go to one table because I do panels, and so I didn't get to do a lot of vendor stuff. And I just went to the first table I saw with this guy had a giant stuffed cat with sunglasses on. I'm like, what's going on here? And he told me about this book. And I'm like, my brother would love that. And then my brother was like, y'all would like that. And it's true.
It's really good. So I haven't finished it yet. I am only like 30% of the way through. But you've read 5 of the books? Yeah, 5 of them. So it's really good. It's super fun. Think like Ready Player One meets The Hunger Games.
Yeah, I think it's like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is kind of like in there too. I thought that as well.
Sure.
It's really fun. It's everything you want.
Which book are you on? You're on the first book, dork. That was really mean, but it's because I'm reading it to him out loud, and I keep telling him there's professional audiobooks that are really good for these. In fact, the first book has 2 different audiobooks. It has a full cast one and then a regular one.
Oh, that's fun.
I'm like, just listen to the audiobook for this one. It's really good. Because I read to him at bedtime. I normally do short story collections because it takes forever to get through a book. We're only halfway through, but you know what? We're still farther along than Kayla. So.
Yeah, sorry. I'll get there. With series specifically, I get really like a wall kind of. Like I'm like, this is a lot. This is a really huge commitment. So I like
you don't have to. I want to. The decision with the Angel Lake book. So I'm on book 2. I'm not reading book 3.
Well, I like this book. I will finish this one. I don't know if I will read the other
book you have. Like, and he gives you such a meal deal because like the books end up being like 700 pages. So you get like 2 books in one. But let's go back to the premise because if you don't know what we're talking about,
let's get into it.
So, like, when I first heard about this, I did not think it was my kind of book, and so I'll explain to you why this is so awesome. But I think the premise alone is pretty good. So you have this guy, Carl. Carl is just a regular dude, used to be in the Coast Guard. His girlfriend has gone off to the Bahamas with her buddies. And then he sees on Instagram that she was there with her ex-boyfriend. So he calls her up and is like, yeah, we're done. Now she does professional cat shows with her very expensive Persian tortoiseshell cat, Princess Donut, the Queen Anne chunk.
Yeah.
I.e. Mrs. Donut, the best character ever. I think she's my favorite literary character.
Also, if you don't know, Queen Anne is a neighborhood of Seattle.
Yes. The Queen Anne chunk.
Queen Anne
from Queen Anne.
Yes.
She's a princess, not a queen. Don't get confused.
No. She's a princess.
Anyway, so she, the girlfriend, Beatrice, hated him smoking. This is just the general premise of the beginning. So he's like, I'm going to smoke all I want, girl. So he is in his boxers having a cigarette during January in Seattle. It's freezing. And the cat goes outside. And he's like, damn it, Donut. Which he says a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, there's my dog. This is an expensive cat. Like, he basically explains that this cat's worth more than like an entire year of his salary. Yeah. She's a grand champion cat. Plus, he just likes Donut. Okay? Yeah. She likes to sit on his lap while he plays video games and stuff. So, being sensible, he's not going to just go out there in his underwear. He throws on a leather jacket and his girlfriend's pink Crocs, like you do. And he goes outside to get her out of his tree when everywhere, every structure, cars, garages, houses, it just gets smushed down, which essentially what's happened here, because he gets a big announcement, aliens have come to our planet and they are harvesting it for everything that we have. So not just natural resources. When they smush everything, they have every object that was in that house or that car, including the people. They now just have those people and they can, breed people or whatever they want. They just harvest everything they can from the world. And the reason they have done this, I guess we got like, it's kind of like Hitchhiker's Guide to That. We got
Mhm.
like a notification back in the day during Egyptian times.
Yeah.
So,
So you have to go check the plans for the hyperspace byway.
yeah.
Yes.
But they do an intergalactic show called Dungeon Crawler World. And every year they pick a different planet. And this year it's Earth.
Mhm.
So then what happens is dungeons open up everywhere.
Mhm.
And it's pretty evenly dispersed. And Carl is out there freezing his butt off. And he's holding the cat that's clawing him up. So he goes to the only place that's warm, which is this dungeon,
Mhm.
which makes him now a crawler. He is now a participant in this game. And there are 18 floors in this thing, and nobody's ever gotten past 13. It's hard. So each level is full of monsters. Each level is themed. And you just need to survive as long as you possibly can while the entire universe is watching you. Like, not even just this world, the entire universe.
Yeah. So it's aliens. But so I highlighted one thing because they spend years learning about the planet and the culture so that they can like make like it's an earth themed thing, right? Like other alien planets are gonna watch the show and learn about earth culture. So they take like everything from earth, like fantasy things like goblins and trolls and things, and those are
But you have to think about it as in being as respectful to earth culture as Florida man would be to Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
They don't give a crap about our culture, and they have a very poor understanding of it. So I know some people were kind of turned off by things in here because they'll have a lot of stereotypical like people. Like they have a hoarder lady in the first one. They have a guy who's like, a jacked up gym bro. It's because this culture is making fun of us. Yeah. On top of that, they want us to look like almost like we deserve it. Like we deserve to have our whole world destroyed. Yeah. They'll show reels and stuff about how violent and stuff we were. Like we had it coming.
It's like a propaganda machine.
We're basically just a joke to them. And that's what really eggs Carl on. Yes, they destroyed our world, but they're essentially just kind of breaking us down for entertainment. His ongoing thing is he says to himself, "You will not break me. I will break you." He wants to break these games because it's sick. On top of just the fact that all the crawlers there were just normal people who were innocent, and a lot of them, millions of people like died.
Yeah, millions. Like he keeps talking about how he sees like the ticker, like the counter go down, and how sick it makes him.
So all the NPCs, they are innocent. Sometimes, most of the time, they're from other worlds, and they basically have had their minds wiped and reprogrammed to be villains. So, like, the first one's really sad because she's basically saying, "I'm scared, my stomach hurts." She's like throwing up cockroaches. She's like a hoarder, but she's like, "I'm scared, my stomach hurts. I don't know where I am. Am I being punished?" Like, it's really sad, and she's speaking in Spanish, but he understands enough of it that he's just like, this is really sad, but he still has to kill her.
He still has to kill her.
He doesn't have a choice. And that's what he hates, is that he's in this position where he has to do this. He has to do a lot of horrible things. And, he knows that they're basically trying to break down his humanity, and he's not going to let them do it. So that's why I think Carl is a really cool character, because he's put in some very morally complicated situations. And sometimes there is no easy or right answer.
You get to go through the decision-making process with him. Like, he's stuck. He did not choose this position. And he's just trying to survive. Him and his kitty cat. They're just trying to make it through.
Yeah, and the Hunger Games part of it is like, they get a guide. This guy Mordecai, who's like, okay, not only do you have to kill things, but you need to do it with style. Because if you do well, you will be featured on the show more, which means you're going to get fan boxes. The more attention you have, the more the games will be manipulated because you're bringing in money. And so you have a better chance of surviving. So it's just like kind of Hunger Games in that respect. And just like Hunger Games, they have talk shows and stuff they have to go on. And Carl hates it because these people are profiting and finding entertainment out of the suffering of others.
Yeah. And there's sponsors. You can get sponsored by corporations, intergalactic corporations. Yeah, it's a really interesting premise. It's fun. I'll finish it. It's gonna take me a minute, but
All right, it doesn't work in my donut cup. My absolute, like, honestly, my best characters of all time. I know, like, Anne Shirley from Anne of Green Gables was in there. There's a lot of great characters in there. I talked about Mary earlier, but Donut right now, off the top of my head, my favorite literary character of all time.
I love it.
All time.
I love it.
Yeah. I love Donut so much. So Donut is, as we mentioned, the cat. It's on the cover there. Donut is just a regular Persian cat. And he doesn't want her anything happen to her. So he brings her in. And then what happens is, because she's the first cat who's ever been put in a crawl, she gets a special box called, it's just like any kind of Dungeons and Dragons or things like that. There's bosses, that's why it's called Lit RPG, because if you've ever played like EverQuest or World of Warcraft or a game like that, that's how this works. They get like points and stuff. That's how the game is.
Achievements, boxes.
Yeah. So Donut gets a legendary pet box, and now she can talk, and her intelligence is higher than his. He's like so offended. He's like, my intelligence is a 3.
And her charisma.
And so she can talk, and right away she basically is calling him her manservant. She's like, but he's been with the family for so long. And he's like, you know what? I got you through here. You have better stats than me.
Goodbye.
I'm out of here. And she's like, well, no, where are you going? He's like, you know why cats are still around? Because if cats actually did talk to us, we would have gotten rid of them by now. The only reason we have cats is because they don't talk. And then, you see a different side of Donut where she's like, all those times you were playing like video games and I just sat in your lap, I really liked that. I like you, Carl. I don't want to be left alone. I am scared. She covers up being scared by having like a lot of bravado, because she is a grand champion.
She is.
But she's also like ruthless in battle. And the first book, she's very much kind of like a child. So, yeah, and she's a cat too. So she doesn't have as much like perspective.
Real life experience. She's a little
says
naive.
A lot of things that are kind of crappy.
Yeah.
I want to give an example, but you haven't gone that far.
No, I haven't, but I've highlighted some of the things that she said. How
Go for it.
She is talking about Carl not wearing pants. Okay.
Oh, and we're drinking Dirty Shirley's because that's Donut's favorite drink.
Donut's cocktail.
Her owner was Beatrice, and she basically has Miss Beatrice. Like anything Miss Beatrice did was super cool. So she loves like Miss Beatrice's music. Like she'll love like Fergalicious comes on. She loves that. Her favorite song of all time was Wonderwall by Oasis, and she loves like I had to look up the song Anaconda by Nicki Minaj because she loves that.
Ridiculous.
But yeah, she loves Dirty Shirley's. It's awesome.
So this one that I highlighted from her, it says, it's Carl talking at first. He goes, you're not wearing pants either, I said after a moment. And then she goes, nor am I wearing a cloak that makes me look like I won a participation trophy at the Special Needs Comic-Con, Carl. I'm a cat. Cats don't wear pants. Don't be so droll.
She's so mean. And I love his descriptions too, because he has fun with it, but he really does. He paints a word picture. The cat was right there howling like someone was eating her children in front of her. Another time he describes a guy as being so swole that he's like a kid in a puffy jacket that can't put his arms down. And I'm like, I see it. Like, so he's having fun. Another thing I love is I love my state. I'm very proud of being a Washingtonian. We are the only state that has a rainforest and mountains and ocean, and I am proud of it. So this is very Washingtonian because, obviously Carl is from Seattle, but they end up meeting people from all over the state. Yakima's mentioned, and some prominent characters are from Wenatchee.
Pretty exciting.
So I love that. I also love that there's tons of pop culture references, and so far I haven't been stumped. I haven't yet, but they're good because he doesn't just tell you all of them. Like some of them are kind of obvious, like he'll mention like that time travel movie where the guy makes out with his mom. We all know that's Back to the Future. But I love it. In one of the more recent books, he tells her like you shouldn't be talking about this stuff because it's alienating, because they are being watched all the time. And she was talking about Teletubbies and that, and how Dipsy wears the hat. Like I don't know how he knows so much pop culture, but I love it. Like, and it's not just a certain niche. Like, he mentioned martyrs. He mentions martyrs.
Oh,
He's like on the
really?
scale of something to martyrs.
Oh, Jesus.
She names the goblins Lorelai and
Lorelai and
Maury.
Rory. And they don't tell you any, like, that's
Yeah.
just what she names them.
She talks about Gossip Girl all the time. It's her,
hilarious.
like, the pinnacle of cinema to her. But yeah, they mention a lot of stuff, and then yeah, it's kind of fun, like when you know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Even the Teletubby one, like maybe it's just because I'm a certain age, but yeah, like, I was like, I know the reference.
Right. No, it's fun. It's really good. Yeah.
Good stuff. And she's very much into the show of it. So like initially, she's like, Carl, you will get me on that show.
Get me on there. And he's
Nick
like, I'm.
Beatrice would.
It's like I'm not your agent.
So like they're a really good team because she is big on the showmanship. She's got insane charisma. She's good at talking to people. She's good at working a crowd. She's really funny.
Like the part that I was just reading, they're like getting somebody to like build something for them, and she's like, "Why don't I just ask? Like my charisma's all the way. Like I'll just ask, and it works." Like she doesn't even have to try because she's that charismatic.
Yeah, she's so good. And I just love like some of the like one of the ones I was just reading now. She was talking about she'll say things a lot. Like she'll say like, you know, when you did this stupid thing, he'd be like, I didn't do that, and she'll realize, oh, that was the guy Miss Beatrice was cheating on you with. But another time she's like, oh, that time you got flour all over my fur and messed up the kitchen. He's like, you knocked over the pancake batter and everything on the shelf. And she's like, you know, anybody with cats should know you don't leave things on the edge of the counter. It's your fault.
It's your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's got very like cat sensibilities, but she also has a very big heart. She's so protective of the people that she cares about. She's so enthusiastic, which I really like. Like she gets enthusiastic about anything, whether it's going out to the club and dancing, or you know they're gonna kill things. And like my favorite donut quote would be when they go out to get dirty, Shirley's, and she gets in a bowl with lots of cherries, and Carl's like, "Cats don't drink cocktails, donut," and she's like, you know. Cats don't shoot lasers out of their eyes either. But here we are, Carl. Mama needs a night off. I just adore her. She is my absolute favorite. I truly. And the other thing I just love about this book is it's so funny. There are multiple laugh out loud moments. Like I feel ridiculous reading because I'm constantly, but I'm also on the edge of my seat. And honestly, it sounds stupid because I've been telling you all this cheesy stuff, but when you get farther into it, like there's some dark stuff too. Like this book has made me like tear up.
Even in the beginning, there's some kind of dark things, like that very first boss that they have to defeat. That was really scary and sad. Like he's not mincing anything. It's very upsetting. You are in the reality of what this would be like. It's really upsetting. Yeah, but it keeps you entertained. Like there's enough light stuff going on in there that you can like trudge through it. It doesn't feel like a trudge. That was probably the wrong word. But there's all the little like pop culture references. It's very fast. It's a very fast, fun. You never feel bored.
No, there's a lot going on.
But it's not overwhelming either.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. And I'm up to book 6 now. There's book 7 just came out. Another thing I would say is I tend to do the whisper the sync thing, which is when you have the Kindle book and the audiobook. But if you're not much of a like traditional reader, though, you can't. All these books are available on Kindle Unlimited, so you just do a trial of that and you can read them all.
Yeah.
The audiobooks for these are really, really good. Jeff Hayes narrates them. Sometimes there's guest appearances from other people, but he does all the voices just phenomenally. Like, and there's a lot of characters, and he does a phenomenal job. He also runs Sound Booth Theater, so they have a YouTube channel. You can see him doing a lot of these recordings. Cool. Every day he's been doing a lot of live reads of these. They also, on Sound Booth Theater's website, if you just wanted to check it out, they have a full cast recording, and the first episode is free.
That's
cool. So you could just check that out. And they're all available on Audible. And I got them with the Whisper Sync, so like a lot of them were only like $5, the audiobooks. So the audiobooks are definitely worth listening to, and you want to do both. So even if you just do the audiobook, you got to read the book too, because Matt Dinniman puts really funny things on like the dedications or in the afterward. Like I showed my brother, he put a picture of his pug Toby. He's like, you need to post reviews, otherwise Toby doesn't get fed. He's just withering away right now. Like, And then in the audiobook, like the last one had Princess Donut singing and stuff. So there's just really funny stuff in both of them. So you get something different. And with each book, I feel like they're really developing the characters, and they have more characters introduced too. And it's good. And like the first book, it's very much they're trying to learn the rules of the game. They're they really pay attention to like achievements and things that they're looting and stuff. And as they go on, it's more about like strategy and kind of meeting new people and such. I know Zigma, his favorite character is Prepa Pente. I feel like I said that wrong. It's basically right. Italian for stubborn. Is a goat who, like Donut, also got a special biscuit. So he talks because Mama's special boy, and you can't call him Pony because that's his special name, and only his mama can tell him it. But yeah, he just loves him. I think like anybody would find characters they love. Danny really likes Carl. Carl's just a cool dude, and he's not just like an everyman character. Like he's funny, and he's very much kind of the straight man comedy wise in this, but you also need somebody who brings a lot of depth to it. And Carl's seen some shit, so
yeah, for sure.
No, dude, I recommend the one read by Jeff Hayes because it's really good.
Yes, there you go. Or read it out.
So now I have my donut cup. And then my other favorite quote is she's always going, "This is an outrage," and Mungo is appalled. And then this one is referring to the one I'm on now. The level is basically Pokemon. They have to find these people, flag them, and then they get a deck, and then they can use them like fighting, and it's all very like stereotypical and kind of offensive to that region. So like and they don't ever get anything right. So I know the people in the Pacific Northwest, they have like Sasquatch. Okay. I know there's a Mothman. But in Cuba, they have some interesting ones like this big spider lady and stuff, the Bedlam Bride. But they also have Jesus, Uzi Jesus, who has a southern accent. So yeah, it's just aliens, man. So yeah, they're hilarious. Yeah, I really feel like when the characters go through some stuff and it's really emotional. So far, Dungeon Crawler Carl, the first one I would give 5 stars to. It's one of my favorite books now. And I would say the same thing about book 5 and so far book 6. And even the other ones I would still say are solid 4-star reads. So I highly recommend the series. Yeah. And if I haven't praised this enough, now I think is the best time to get involved with this series because they were self-published, which this doesn't happen very often, but every so often there's a whole thing when ISBNs are issued. So if you're self-published, you're not likely to ever get your book traditionally published because they're not going to issue a second ISBN unless the book does really, really well. Think your 50 Shades of Grey and books like The Martian. Right. And this is one of those books. Matt Dinniman is very, very involved with his book, so he didn't give up the publishing rights, but he did give Penguin the hardback rights because he didn't have hardback editions. So Penguin just released the first 3 books in hardback form, which is really cool. They have cool covers. And then Seth MacFarlane just optioned the TV rights for them.
He's perfect for it.
Yeah. His production company, Fuzzy Door, wants to turn it into a TV series, and I think it would be great, especially as like an animated series. It'd be really, really fun.
They could do a lot with it. It could be like, I mean, because like Rick and Morty is, you know, it's a pretty heavy, dark, intergalactic style animated show, but I think that Dungeon Crawler Carl could be like more for everybody, like not just for.
I think so, and I haven't even done justice to the world building in this. Like it's so intricate, like. Not just like how does he remember every single like buff and debuff and achievement. Yeah. But like there's a whole story behind the AI. All the characters have interesting backstories.
It's very detailed. There's a lot going on.
And you find out other things too, like even why the games are happening. It's run by the Barant Corporation and they really need money. And why do they need money? And just all the different races from all the worlds. It feels so real. Like it's one of those things like a lot of people say, like, you know, when you're lying, you gotta have a lot of details. Matt Dinniman proves that doesn't work. Right. I'm pretty sure none of this is real, and it's so detailed that it feels real.
It does. It does. I dig it.
Yeah, like honestly, as far as world building goes, it's like up there with like Harry Potter, where it's just like there has to be like a massive like book Bible that he's using to like kind of keep it all together, like keep the rules sorted out because there's so much
There's a
here.
lot. Even just like a stat sheet or something somewhere for what their levels of things are.
He goes to CryptoCon every year, and that's one of the things I'm going to ask him is what he uses to organize his books and plan them out, because he also, on top of that, just like what J.K. Rowling did with the Harry Potter books, he'll put something in like book 1 that comes back in book 4, and you're like, did he plan this all along?
What does he have planned?
Like, I feel like he has a plan in place, that he's not just writing these like by the seat of his pants, that he knows what's happening in book 8 and book 10. Like, I feel like he already knows the whole ending of the series, which is really, really exciting. I feel like he must have a very detailed outline and some way to remember all of the achievements and loot and buff.
Yeah, he's gotta. He's yeah.
Insane.
What does he do? What's his process?
It's insane.
You're gonna have to talk to him.
I have to.
You have to.
So much.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Who's your favorite character so far?
I don't know that many people. I think Mordecai.
Mordecai's cool.
Mordecai's cool, and Tally. I liked him too.
Tally?
Tally. He's
Oh
like
yeah, he was the
he's like in the bath, like he feeds them.
Yeah,
like a hotel, kind of like a hostel kind of a thing. I thought he was cute.
Begins with a B. I can't remember the race.
I don't remember either, but I liked Mordecai.
Oh, I love that too. So they have safe rooms they can go into to get refreshments and have a rest or whatever. But again, everything that this game has was harvested from our world. So you might be in a KFC.
Yeah.
You might be in a random restaurant from Iceland. You could be in any kind of restaurant from anywhere. Same thing with like all the bathrooms and stuff.
Yeah.
One of the things I love in the first book, there's a glitch where the toilets are randomly just sucking people in. Can you imagine like that's how you die? That's the one place you're supposed to be safe.
Yeah. And there's a glitch, like a never-ending toilet paper glitch too, that they have to fix. They have to do patches of things.
They do patches. So even though a lot of people died, people hear about this because there's daily announcements. And so people start pooping in the streets, which that's the whole reason why they had so many restrooms. This is the first year they have them everywhere because they don't want people pooping in the streets, because nobody wants to see you pooping on this television show.
Yeah. And like doing the game in poopy streets is fun.
So then people start doing it again. They're like, we're going to have to issue like penalties if you guys do this. Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
But like, I wouldn't want to use the bathroom. Like, I'd take a chance that I'm going to be on the show with my pants down.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Especially if it's going to suck you into it or something. Yeah. It's good
Poor
stuff.
Carl. He just wants a pair of pants and some shoes.
That's
all he wants, man.
But he might not be so lucky.
Well, yeah. So it's all about like, you have to play the game a little bit too. So if there's anything that like Donut hates getting torches, she hisses every time she gets a torch in her box because she has a ton of them. And then she's told by the guild guy, if you do that every time and cause a reaction that makes people laugh, you're going to get a lot more torches. Yeah. So
yeah, cool.
It's so good. Such good world building. And like I said, I traditionally, like typically, I read a lot of horror and that kind of thing. I do not read a lot of fantasy, or not really into like Dungeons and Dragons and all that stuff much. I mean, I did like EverQuest, but it's not like really my thing.
Yeah.
I absolutely love these books. I want to read all of Matt Dinniman's books now. So I'm so obsessed.
I'm excited to see what else he does, like outside of Dungeon Crawler Carl. Because like J.K. Rowling, I didn't read any of her Robert Galbraith stuff, but I read The Casual Vacancy that she wrote. I think about that book all the time.
It was really good.
It was really good. It was very sad, and it kind of changed the way that I think about Harry Potter too.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
We already talked about Toby the Pug.
Pay attention.
The other thing I find really inspiring about these books is I oftentimes feel like I have too many interests and too many hobbies, and I should get rid of something because I can't possibly dedicate enough time to them, because I like to make videos and I like to write and I like to read and I like to spend time with my dogs and I like to do this and the other thing. Matt Dinniman proves you actually can find a way to have it all, or do it all. He actually does do professional cat shows with his cats. He's super into cats. He is still a professional artist. I've seen his work a lot at CryptoCon. It's just, I never really knew much more about it. He takes like dictionary pages and he'll put like cute cat pictures and stuff on it. And I guess he sold a couple to like IKEA and Target, and now he's able to write full time. So I think his writing's taking off enough now that he's probably set. But he does that. He also plays guitar in a punk band. He like also is the father of a teenager. Like he also has a pug named Toby. So he just has all the things going on, and I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
He must also be consuming a lot of pop culture with all the references.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's really inspiring. His other books, he does have a horror book called kind of like massive ball, like monster ball type thing, like made me think of like Critters. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called The Grinding.
Okay.
He has Duology that looks like another lit RPG thing, and the other one that Jeff Hayes, the narrator of this one, he also did the full cast for another one of his books called Kaiju Medical Surgeon.
Okay.
So basically, I guess it's like a guy who is like medic, but with kaijus, I don't know. Supposedly, it's really good and messed up. Jeff Hayes says it's messed up.
Okay. Well, that sounds
and this
fun.
book has messed up stuff in it.
Yeah.
I've seen things. Oh my god, mine are spoiler. Spoiler. I just read this part. God, there's so many things. Just previews of some of the fucked up shit. They meet somebody who's a god, but she has to take the only body part available, and it's the head of a sex doll. So they have a sex doll that just rolls around. Her name's Samantha, and it's got like fangs because it was made off of a famous character in their universe.
Okay.
And she'll be like, "I would kill your mother," and she's just crazy. She's crazy, but I mean, she's kind of sweet.
Okay.
She's messed up.
Sounds messed up.
Samantha.
Samantha.
Carl got a disease where he had like he got infected by this thing that gave him a disease where he had boils and then they'd burst into slugs.
Ew.
And one of them was coming from underneath his pants, and the guy was looking at him, and he like rips off the slug and throws it at him. The guy's like, "Did you just rip your dick off and throw it at me?" He's like, "Yeah, and I'll do it again." It's just the slug, but it's just like, I've seen things, guys. I've seen things.
Oh, that's upsetting.
There's so many upsetting things. I mean, there's a ball full of pig people.
Yeah.
In the first book. So many things, guys.
But it's fun. It's a good time.
Yes.
Read it.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll do all the things. Like truly, I would recommend this book to anybody. Like I don't care like if you're not into D&D and stuff, I think if you just like good characters, like speaking of Hunger Games, like I read that book way after everybody else did. I had already seen the movies. And finally I just read the book. I'm like, "Oh, I can see why people like this so much." I was kind of put off because I thought it was kind of a battle royale ripoff. So I was like, "Oh, I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to read it." And I finally read it. I'm like, "Okay, I can see why people really like this." And then I really love it.
Same. I saw the movie first and I was like, "Oh, this is really cool. I need to know more." And I read all 3 books in like 2 minutes.
I'm not into like wizards and fantasy and stuff either, but I eventually read all the Harry Potter books, and at first I did not get it. I'm like,
I was late to the Harry Potter game too.
I read the first book and I was like, I don't get it. But when you get to about book 3 or 4, you're like, okay, I get it. It's the characters that make you really love it.
My 8th grade teacher read it to us, and I was just like, no, I'm too cool. Like I want nothing to do with this. But then like 2 years later, I was like digging in. I read the first 4 books like 13 times, waiting for book 5 to come out. Like I was the Harry Potter fan, but it took me a long time. Oh God,
it's crawling around.
That's really scary.
No, it's not. It's Pipkin. He's the best little boy.
Can you see him?
I don't know how well they can see him, but he's right there.
I've just never seen him like that before.
He's excited because he likes touching color Carl.
Yeah,
he's my boy. Pipkin, the best little boy ever.
He's really cute. I just was not expecting that. Okay.
So are you going to read the rest of the Dungeon Color Carl books?
I'll at least finish this one. I cannot promise that I'll get to the
You don't
other
have to.
ones anytime soon with the way
You got to
my
read the
life
first
is.
one.
But I'll finish the first one.
And to be honest, it doesn't end in a way where you're like, well, crap, I now have to go read the whole series. Right. Honestly, it ends in a way you can just read the first book and it's really good.
Yeah.
And it has enough of a resolution. I mean, because each one's a floor. Well, not every book. Some books cover multiple floors. But I feel like the first one ends in a place where you can decide if you want to move on or not. And if you don't, I still think it's good.
Maybe like throughout time, I will read them all, but I will definitely finish the one.
Chuck's right there. Chuck the Scorpion. He's right there.
Over there.
And there's Arabella, the jumping spider. There's so many bugs in here, guys. It's awesome. I'm really lucky.
So lucky.
And a dog.
Okay, so before we dive into our what's up next
Oh,
books,
who do you recommend Dungeon Crawler Carl to?
I wish Doug would read it. He'd love it. He's the only other person I know. Anybody who's ever played a video game, anybody who's into like sci-fi at all, like it's cool. Any sci-fi pop culture, like if you're into like Star Trek or whatever, like it's cool. It's really for anybody.
I agree. I think it's just got a great mix of action and comedy and drama and horror, and it really has everything in it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Did you read anything else that wasn't an accounting textbook?
No.
Nobody cares about that, Kayla.
Nobody
No. I care a
cares.
little bit. But it's
Let
only
me
'cause
tell
you
you,
care.
I can tell you all about finance management.
Rest in peace, Susan from accounting.
Poor
That was my
Susan.
praying mantis.
Poor Susan. Hold on, let me find my list. I
Pip looks like he's hanging on your every word.
maybe he loves me.
I think he is. I would think he wants to come out.
I'm currently still reading The Sword of Shannara.
You said that's so long.
It's so long. It's good. I'll finish it. I'm about halfway through. But it's gonna take me probably another 6 months to finish it. But I really like it. Doug and I have been really into like this like 70s, 80s like fantasy stuff, and it's giving me everything that I want there. And then I also started reading The Once and Future King by T.H. White. So I'm really in like everything that's gonna not put me in the real world is what I want to be doing.
I think unless you have another book. Do you have another book you want to talk about?
No, because the only other one that I'm reading is the one that we're reading for next
I'm gonna
month.
think that's a perfect segue because I'm in a place now where I'm reading a lot of books. I read roughly 10 books a month. So I feel like I'm in a place where I can offer unsolicited advice on how to read more. And I think what you're saying is a really good thing. Like you know right now what you're in the mood for and you're reading it.
Yep.
So you're right now in the mood for that kind of sword and sorcery, fantasy, and I think that's good. Like if you're in a it's also okay to DNF a book for now. And I don't even say did not finish always. I'm like for now. Now's maybe not the right time for me to read this. I've also come back to a lot of books and I'm like, I don't get what Past Me was saying. This book is awesome.
Well, and sometimes with books like especially The Sword of Shannara and The Once and Future King, I know that these are epic books, right? These are big, big books. They're 700-800 pages. I'm not going to hold myself to the standard that I'm going to get this done in a month because that's not what I have time for and that's not the way I read. It's going to take me a year. And I have to be okay with that. Otherwise I won't read anything.
Some books you can't just power through. You cannot take, certain books and just power through them. Some books you can. And that's completely I've been really reading these Dungeon Crawler Carl books fast. I've read 5.5 of them, but they're just kind of just like you can just shove all the Pringles in your mouth and you're not with Dungeon Crawler Carl. It's totally fine. But like I remember when I got a lit degree and we did a whole Victorian literature class. Victorian literature, like you read The Woman in White, you're taking your sweet freaking time, or you're not gonna understand what's going on.
Yeah, you really have to like dig in.
There's a lot of books like you're talking about Moby Dick. That's one. You got to take your time. You read any Ernest Hemingway, you got to take your time.
Yeah.
A lot of fantasy is you got to take your time. You got to savor it. So absolutely, and it may not be a time in your life right now where you can take your time. So wait till you have time. And I think, we talked about this earlier, just grabbing any little moment. There are so many little moments that you can read. I listen to an audiobook when I do my makeup, then I switch to my Kindle and read while I'm blow drying my hair. And you think, Corey, that's like 5 minutes. That's almost like you get through a few chapters.
You can, and I read at night, like before I get into bed, I read until I fall asleep. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's an hour. I read in line at the bank, and my goal this year was to finish 15 books. I don't know if I will meet my goal, but I have finished 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have finished 10 books this year, stealing those little bits of time, those 5-minute increments, and I'm halfway through The Sword of Shannara and The Once and Future King. Like, it's not finishing a book, but it's a lot of reading. I still got it.
It's okay to put one down and grab something that's super enticing to you. I think having audiobooks is good too, also for like commutes and stuff. When you're making dinner, you can make an walking the dog. You can listen to an audiobook in a lot of places. But even if you don't like audiobooks, while you're waiting for a movie start at the movie theater. I have lots of little moments. There's lots of time where we're just sitting around waiting for things to happen.
Yeah.
That's a good time to have a book. I carry my Kindle with me everywhere because I never know when those moments are going to happen.
And I keep my Kindle app on my phone because like I get a lot of like messages and emails and stuff, so I always have to have my phone on me. But instead of, I mean, I still am guilty of scrolling through Instagram and TikTok, but instead of doing that, sometimes I will bust out my Kindle app or my Apple Books app and read for the 5 minutes I'm in line at the bank.
And I have those books too where they can kind of put me in a slump because it's just hard to get through. I think especially if you're trying to build a good habit, just put it aside because a book that's hard to get through can really just make it hard. Just switch to something short, even. Just switch to a shorter book. There's tons of great novellas or short story collections.
Also, you can always go back to something you've read before and really love.
That's true. And I also just love like graphic novels and stuff. There's so many different kinds of stories out there and different ways to consume stories. So now is the part of the show where we have you guys pick a book for next month. So we have a few things picked out.
Yep.
So you want to talk about what we're reading next month?
Yeah. So we used to live here.
You're already halfway through that one.
I am already halfway through it. So I was looking on the library because we had talked about what books we were going to get. That was the only one I could find through the library. So I was like, it's kind of short. I'll just start reading, see what we're getting into. I'm 60% through. It's nonstop action. I'm in love with it.
It's crazy.
Already recommended it to two other people.
Kind of slow and spooky.
No,
Is it paranormal?
I don't know yet.
I don't know yet. Ghost. We don't know.
I don't know, but it's like it's scary. It's action packed. Like it's nonstop. Yeah, it's fast.
Oh, to answer your question from earlier, I forgot to tell. My favorite book so far is The Butcher's Masquerade, book 5. But book 1's a close second.
Cool. Good stuff.
So what is We Used to Live Here about?
So this couple, it's a lesbian couple. They flip houses. So they buy this house that's in the middle of Oregon, like in the middle of nowhere in Oregon. And they get a knock on the door, and it's this man and his family, and he's like, "Hey, I grew up here."
I've always wanted to do that, but never had the gumption to go knock on the door.
I did send a phone call. I called somebody who lived in my old house because I wanted an apricot from the apricot tree, but he never called me back. But he knocks on the door with his family, and he's like, "Hey, I grew up here. Can I show my family the house?"
That's one of those ways you can get invited into a stranger's house, but I think a lot of people would do it. You know what's an interesting one? I'm such a bad friend today. I'm like going off topic. I found out recently, I have seen it, the Charmed House.
Oh,
which is beautiful. It's an old Victorian house in Los Angeles. The people there, if you message them ahead of time, they usually will give you a tour of the house.
Well, so this book starts with him knocking on the door, and she opens it, and he's like, "Hey, can I come in here?" And she doesn't want to let him in, but she's neurotic and she's a people pleaser, and so she.
I think I would too.
Yeah.
Even though I wouldn't want to.
It's crazy, and I see myself in her a lot. She is one of the most neurotic people you are ever going to meet. She questions everything. She's always deferring.
Worse than us.
Yes, she's so bad. But like then there's other things that start happening and you're like, is she completely like, is she with it? Like, is she exaggerating things? It's crazy. It just starts and it doesn't stop.
Is he in the book the whole time?
I can't tell you anything.
So crazy. And I know this is going to be a movie on Netflix soon with Blake Lively in it.
Yeah. I'm excited.
I want to read the book before the movie. So that's we're going to be reading this in November. It's going to be shorter this month too, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah. And then we have A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. King.
Do you mind if I run to the little Gory's room really quick? Will you tell them what it's
I
about?
will tell them all the people.
I actually don't remember. I just remember I like T. Kingfisher because she wrote A House with Good Bones. All right, nobody look at my backside when I go to the bathroom.
Don't look at
Gory's. It's inappropriate.
Don't look at her butt. I have to look up the thing on Goodreads. I have to look up the book so I can tell you what it is about. A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. A dark retelling of the Brothers Grimm Goose Girl, rife with secrets, murder, and forbidden magic. Cordelia knows her mother is unusual. Their house doesn't have any doors between rooms, and the mother doesn't allow Cordelia to have a single friend, unless you count Falada, her mother's beautiful white horse. The only time Cordelia feels truly free is on her daily rides with him, but more than simple eccentricity sets her mother apart. Other mothers don't force their daughters to be silent and motionless for hours, sometimes days on end. Other mothers aren't sorcerers. After a suspicious death in their small town, Cordelia's mother insists they leave in the middle of the night, riding away on Falada's sturdy back. Yeah.
Was it good?
Yeah, I think so. So that's that book.
Danny, what's in the little Gory's room? There's your answer.
Little Gory's. I also have to use the little Gory's room.
What's in the little Kayla's room?
It will be the little Kayla's room.
So
So you can talk about what you're excited about.
I got it.
See, you said that too. You can talk more about A Sorceress Comes to Call and Bless Your Heart. Those dirty Shirleys are just going straight through it.
Hello? Okay, I plugged it in a different USB. I think that's the only thing I can think to do. There is something we've been considering. There is different settings on the microphone we could try. But this tends to work for us in the past. I do know we have a lot of storms right now. So I feel like aside from changing the USB it's plugged in, there's probably not a lot I can do about the mic cutting out. But if it keeps cutting out, let me know, and I have one other thing I can try. So the last book, yeah. So start thinking about books you want us to read, because we're going to ask you after we talk about the next book. So we read a book at the beginning of the year called The Southern Book Club's Guide to Hunting Vampires, which we both loved, by Grady Hendrix, which, by the way, Grady Hendrix has a new book coming out in January. We're absolutely reading that in January, called Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. And I have my copy pre-ordered from Barnes & Noble, and you can pre-order with him his signature for only $30, guys. That's a steal. Like, seriously, if you love Grady Hendrix, get yourself over to Barnes & Noble. Okay, how about we try this? This is interview mode. So it should have, I think it needs to be like that. I put out an interview mode. So it should know there's voices coming from both sides.
From all sides.
So let me know if that is better. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or for the others, let's try this one. Okay, let's try this one. This is like the whole room one. I don't know. Does this sound better?
We're gonna see.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
Bless your heart. Noise gate setting to my ear. That seems better. Okay.
So Bless Your Heart. That one I got because it was on sale on Audible, but it sounds really good. Here, I do have a limiter on my microphone. I'll just take that off. All right. Does that sound better?
Does that sound better?
It had a limiter on it, and I took it off.
We'll find out.
We'll see. Okay. Hey, Fairpoint Station. I didn't even say hi. Okay, so Bless Your Heart. It does sound pretty similar to the other book, which we really liked that book. So that's good to us. Mm-hmm. It's also set in the 90s, which I think is crazy. So this one's set in Texas in 1999. And it says that the Evans women are owners of a funeral parlor in town. And they do stuff there. They have a daughter. That's good. Right? Then Strigoi. It's the same vampires from the Vampire Academy, which, by the way, I love those books, man. I gotta go back and read those again. Basically, there are vampires, and these women who work in this mortuary end up going to stop them. So I just was interested in it because I just like books with kind of, I loved the last one. I loved a little group of friends. I like that they work in a mortuary, and I don't know, it sounds really fun.
Well, and this one seems like one that I wouldn't necessarily pick out, like, on like Kindle Unlimited. There's tons of like popcorny, romancy type books. like the look of this is like that, I would never have picked it out. But it sounds interesting and
sounds fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to read it.
Sounds like I read a lot of books like this. Like next year, my goal is to reread Mary Janice Davidson's Undead series because she has a new one, and I don't remember what happened at the end of the last like two. So I was like, you know what? They're popcorn books. I'm just gonna reread them all. I also want to read Julie Kenner's Carpe Demon series again. So those are things I want to do. But this book also has a sequel coming out next year. So I want to read these ones, and then something else I wanted to do next year. Practical Magic has a prequel, a sequel. It has a couple different books. One's a prequel and one's a sequel, and there's another one too that I think is just a different story.
That'd be fun.
But the reason I wanted to do that is there's a sequel movie coming out next year with the original people in it. So I
love us some Sandy B.
Yeah, I liked Practical Magic the book, though I do think the movie is better. But yeah, I thought maybe next year we'll read one of those too.
Fun. I love that movie.
I do too. It's so good. So now is the part where we ask you guys, because we pick 4 books. So usually Kayla picks a book, I pick a book. Sometimes we pick one like we got Bless Your Heart on sale, and it just seemed like an us kind of book.
Yeah.
We also try to make sure there's at least one book that's not horror or thriller, since this started off as a horror book club, and now it's just expanded. So we got Sorcerer's Comes to Call.
Yeah. So
we ask you guys to pick one of the books. Our hope is that will get you guys more invested. Like Zigma's here, and he picked a book last month. So hopefully that's why.
You loved it.
I did. It expands our horizons, exposes us to different books.
Yeah.
And then hopefully, maybe it's a book you've been wanting to read for a while and you just want buddies to read it with. Hopefully it gets you more invested in book club. Yeah. So Zigma, nah, dog.
You can't pick again.
You can't pick again. You picked last month.
Yeah. And you're 2 for 2.
You are 2 for 2. That one we were already. I think it was my pick.
It was your pick. Yes.
But
still,
he recommended that one to me too. So no, you have to let other people go.
Take a seat.
Take a seat, Holmes. So, Fairpoint Station, we would love to hear if you have a pick, or Horror Addicts, or Time Capsule, or anybody else who's not Zigma, even though he has fantastic. I can't read a whole series.
I do have that We Are Legion, We Are Bob. I have that on Audible. I haven't listened to it yet, but it was recommended.
He loves those books
by another friend. What's the Mountain Man series? Can you give that one a goog?
A goog.
I give it a goog.
I like that. Isn't that fun? I think that's something we say now. Mountain Man.
That top one right there.
By Keith Blackmore. Oh, and the only stipulation is it has to be either horror, fantasy, or sci-fi. A zombie apocalypse series set in Canada. I don't know, my hand's stuck in my hair.
Uh-oh.
No, we're fine. That was scary, guys.
It was really scary.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Zigma, there was an otter person. There was an otter person in the current Dungeon Crawler Carl book. It was one of the strippers, the strip club.
She was an otter.
It was a guy. He was gyrating his little otter bits.
Okay, Will.
I was so happy.
Cool.
I also heard from Dungeon Crawler Carl that male strippers, at least according to that book, haven't been a thing since the 70s. Like, women have been doing it for forever.
No, that's not true. I went to see Magic Mike in 2019 in Las Vegas.
The 70s. The 1970s.
Right, but there are still male strippers.
No, it said that they became a thing.
Oh,
in the
they
70s,
only became a
thing. It wasn't a thing before that.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I get that. Okay, that way. I'm like,
it's a thing now. I want to go to the Thunder Down Under or something. We should go. I've always wanted to see
I had a lot of fun at the Magic Mike thing. It was actually really
fun.
Did
they have a guy with a tassel on his dong? I've always wanted to see that.
I didn't see that.
Like how Elvira has them on her boobs?
Yeah, I didn't see that.
But
it was really cool because I was scared. I was like, I don't want to be danced on, and nobody I was like, and nobody danced on me. They're very respectful.
I've been to female strip clubs, and the girls are always so nice, and nobody ever I actually don't say anything, but I always seem to get a lot of dances. I happened to dance bachelorette party, and Dusty was there, and he wasn't happy. We already read Project Hail Mary.
Don't you remember? We loved it. Rocky. I would like to read Grunts at some point. Okay. I bought that one. But anyway, let's read this description.
So, Fairpoint Station recommended this. So, a man must survive. It's got 4.0 3
Wow,
rating.
that's
All right. You have our attention. It's a post-apocalyptic zombie apocalypse fiction. A man must survive the zombie apocalypse armed only with a shotgun, a samurai bat, and the will to live among the unliving. In this horror series debut. It's been 2 years since civilization ended in an unstoppable wave of chaos and blood. Now, former house painter, not a house painter anymore.
No way.
Former Augustus Gus Berry lives a day-to-day existence of waking up, getting drunk. This sounds just like that Vincent Price movie where he hunts vampires.
I don't know that one.
You do. Come on. Last Man on Earth. Well, that's what it sounds like. Or I Am Legend.
Oh, yeah. I know about
Or
that
Omega
one.
Man.
Okay.
All right. I got distracted. They will come up from the side of the mountain and penetrate his forests. Living on the outskirts of Annapolis, Gus goes scavenging for whatever supplies remain in the undead suburbia below. Every time he descends, the mountain could be his last. But when Gus encounters another survivor, this sounds exactly like I Am Legend. This is amazing. He soon realizes the zombie corps may not be the greatest threat he faces. Combining heart-pounding action and a frozen dystopia with complex characters and dark humor. Perfect for fans of HBO's The Last of Us. I'm actually watching that finally now.
Oh my god, it's so good.
I'm only on episode 2.
It's so good.
So Fairpoint Station says Blackmore writes great characters. The protagonist is an everyman who's easy to relate to.
Okay.
I'm just like Oprah. I'm everyman.
And it's not very long either.
It's only 228 pages.
Yeah.
And how many books are there in their series? Canada, huh? Canada.
We love our neighbors.
That's
so more.
another country. I have been
7?
there. Okay, so I don't know. What do you think?
I think that sounds fun.
I think that sounds good.
We haven't done a lot
Where
of
can
a
we
zombie
find
thing
this?
in a while.
When was the last time we did zombies? I think it was Delicious Death, wasn't it?
I think so too. This delicious.
It's been a
Death,
while.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we've zombied, like the Cranberries
Kindle
do.
Unlimited.
Ooh, it's on Kindle Unlimited. Well, you had me at Kindle Unlimited. I will read anything on Kindle Unlimited because I don't have to pay. Well, I mean, I pay for the service.
Yeah. But it's nothing extra.
Yeah, I like to utilize the service.
Mm-hmm.
So Mountain Man, I like that it's in the snow. You don't read a lot of zombie books set in the snow. So Fairpoint Station, if we read this book, will you be here to talk, like to watch the show and participate in the chat with us next month? Oh yeah, what day's book club next month?
The 12th of December.
Okay, it'll be the 12th of December. Okay, 100%. All right, then I say we do this.
Okay.
Danny, I actually fully expected you to say grunts, but you took too long. So I want you to sit there and I want you to think about what you did and be more on top of things next month with your recommendation. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have that one. I have it queued up and ready to go.
I thought we were going to read grunts, but no, he is just taking his sweet time, probably eating all my soup I made. Right?
It's
Like
really
a billion balls of
tasty.
soup. It is really good.
It's really
So we're going to read Mountain Man by Keith C. Blackmore. This sounds pretty good. I don't, like I said, I haven't read a lot of zombies in the snow stuff. I'm thinking about it, and when I think about snows, I think about like snows. Great use of the plural, Haley. I think about like 30 Days a Night and stuff. So,
Yeah.
all right, we're gonna read this. So, if you follow us on Goodreads, I am really like kind of gamify my reading. So I'll read like I read 3 chapters. I'm gonna update Goodreads,
Right.
and I post the notes and everything, so you can see exactly how far along I am. Kayla posts a lot on Goodreads too.
Mm-hmm.
You can also join the Strange and Unusual Book Club on Goodreads. There is a link down below. So next month we're going to be reading We Used to Live Here, A Sorceress Comes to Call, Mountain Man, and Bless Your Heart.
Yep.
And again, the reason we do 4 books is we want to have a lot of variety. I tend to read a lot, so I will read all of these. Kayla will read as many as she can. She's in school, guys.
I am. I'm
She's
a learning lady.
But the other reason is, I've been in a lot of book clubs too, and sometimes I'm like, I'm not into this month's book, so I'll just skip it. This way, there should be at least one book listed here that catches your fancy.
Well, and I like it too because, like, the Lost Girls that you read last month, I didn't get a chance to finish it, but I liked it, and I will finish it at some point when I have a little more time. Maybe next summer I'll be able to talk to you guys a little bit about it too.
We mostly, aside from like today when we had to talk about the ending of a book, for the most part we keep these pretty spoiler free because the idea is that even if you didn't read the books, you know what we thought of the books and whether or not, you know, there's something really cool out there that we think you should read.
But sometimes it is useful to have the conversation. Like with the Head Full of Ghosts, it was useful to talk about what it meant.
About Southern Book Club.
That one too. That was a really important one. And episode 13, because I didn't necessarily understand the ending to that book, so it was really nice to be able to talk about what was going on.
That's one of my goals for book club. I like to think that, you know, we're almost at 2 years on this book club. You know, that we started in January 2 years ago.
Yep.
Almost our
getting into our third. We're starting our third year.
So, I mean, eventually I think it'd be cool if more people read the books with us. And since there's so many, and even if you just read one book and more people participate in the discussion and stuff, I think we can get more into the meat of the book.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and talk about, like, you know, it's fun, especially like with Paul Tremblay, you know, his books, like the books that you can interpret in multiple different ways.
Those are fun.
Also, I, you know, honestly, I didn't take any notes today. Sometimes I have notes. Today I didn't. So I might miss something. And if you read the book too, then you can be like, but what about this cool part? And I'm like, it's brilliant.
Absolutely. We love it.
Yes. Yeah. Some zombies die. Great. Spoiler alert.
Why bother? Why bother even reading it now?
What the heck? That's like saying, oh yeah, you're going to go see the Titanic. The boat sinks. Great. Thanks, everybody.
Great. The whole story.
So I'm excited. And I'm always excited when you guys pick a book. Remember, we do this every month. You cannot be the person who picks 2 months in a row, which we have to say because we have such a small book club.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's fun because then I wouldn't have even known about like Mountain Man. And I didn't think Dungeon Crawler Carl was for me, and it absolutely was for me.
Project Hail Mary, I would never have read.
My donut cup. Don't gas that, my Jesus.
That's my donut face.
The reason I know why she says that now.
Yeah.
It's because Uzi Jesus, the Pokemon card. She'll be like, go resurrect. One of his powers is resurrection. She'll go resurrect that player. And he's like, I already did. And she's like, I'm looking at him right now. He's not resurrecting. He's like, no, he resurrect. He's just dust right now. She's like, he's literally in 2 pieces. Don't gaslight me, Jesus.
Do your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's kind of a brat.
Love it.
So I think it's really cool because we're like, you know, getting exposed to new books and stuff. So I think this is good. So far, you guys have done well.
Yeah.
Dungeon Crawler was
great.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah, super fun.
So
yeah, and I think I would like to read the Bobiverse books at some point. And
I do.
I want to read Grunts too, Dan. I do. So
you were just slow.
Be patient. It'll happen.
But yeah. So yeah.
I tried to read Communion for Doug, but
I'd be down to read it if Doug suggested it at the end of book club.
Yeah, if he would pay attention.
So yeah, definitely, like, you know, whether it's a book that's been on your wish list or reading TBR for a while that you're just like, it'd be more fun to read with other people. That's a good reason. Or it's a book you love and you just want to share the love with people who might be excited about it. You think we dig it. Or you have any other reason. I don't know. Maybe it's new and you just want to know if it's good. Whatever. That's what we do at the end of book club every month.
Pick a book. So December 12th. Quick
12th.
turnaround time.
Is it Thursday?
It's a Thursday, but we've got Christmas coming up, and Boxing Day is apparently a holiday.
It is.
That I'm not being very what's the word? I'm not being very tolerant.
You're not being very woke right now. That's what you're not.
I didn't know.
Now I have to explain that because of you and your unwokeness.
Sorry, I didn't know.
She was all like, we could do book club on Boxing Day. And I was like, no, because British people, I grew up in England, my mother's English, celebrate Boxing Day. So back in the day, it's kind of almost like basically people who have to work on Christmas, it's their Christmas for starters. And it started back in the day when people would have servants and stuff. Your servants would have to work all Christmas, making sure the family is fed, making a big dinner. And so Boxing Day, they got like boxes of like stuff for their whole family so they could have their own feast and their own Christmas with their family. My family, just because, you know, typically people have different things to do on Christmas and stuff, I usually spend that day with my mom's side of the family.
Nice. Well, I respect it and I understand it now. And
Now
I'm
you will.
sorry that I
Yeah, you will.
doubted it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All right. December 12th.
Sad for Zombies. Favorite Point Station is on point. Dungeon Carl only happened since you thought I would like it, and yeah, I did. Oh no! You know what? We're just not going to read the end of that, guys. Sorry.
It's fine. It's
You thought I would like it, and then I got you to read it, but I wouldn't have known about it if you did not give me the first book. I think it's just serendipitous, dude. Like, it was meant to happen. So,
here we go.
and yeah, that's actually one thing, because, I met him at Crypticon, and I know that they're planning on getting more authors at Crypticon. So if we get enough authors, I know Matt Dinniman will be there, and they want to get, like, Brady Hendricks. They want to get a lot of other people,
Yeah.
Maybe you should go with me, and we should be like, hey, book club, what's up?
Book
we read your book,
club.
Paul Tremblay. Maybe
Yeah.
explain that head full of ghosts for us, huh?
What?
Maybe tell us what you think happens to
happened?
them at the end of Cabin at the End of the World.
Yeah.
What up?
What up? Tell us all the things. Why did you kill that tiny little baby?
Anyway, you should go with me to
Yes.
interrogate all the. That's also
Yeah.
where I met Craig DeLuey, who wrote
nice.
episode 13.
Nice. Love it.
So that'll be in
And-
May.
Yeah. Okay.
That is exactly right. See, somebody is aware of cultural things.
Sorry. I'm just so
Right, but
closed-minded and
You really are. You need to work on that.
sorry, I will.
Okay, so do we have anything else we want to talk about? Any book club agenda things?
I don't think so.
So read all the books. Make yourself a Dirty Shirley.
Yeah. The maraschino cherries are the most important part.
You have to have extra. So Dirty Shirley is as per Donut's recipe. Princess Donut, Queen and Chunk. You need Shirley Temple, so that's 7 Up,
Grenadine.
grenadine, shot of vodka, and lots of maraschino cherries. I actually like it. I think if you really want to do it right, you do it in a pet bowl. But I think if you have a donut mug, which I got this from Tea Public,
Or
I love it,
a Buffy cup.
or a Buffy cup.
Yeah.
So many ways.
So
I think
many
having a swirly straw also helps.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else, Kayla?
I think I'm good.
We will see you guys next month. You, Fairpoint Station, next month. Same time, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll alert you on all the medias.
Ring out the
Thursday,
bells.
December 12th.
Yep.
And until we meet again.
Blessed be.